touch nothing.
Okay.
Hello, boy. Jim Sterling here, and this is God of War. That was pathetic, but he does say it a lot. He's just boy the whole time. We need a supercut of all the times he says it. I think whoever tries that will die before they finish it. But anyway, this is God of War, and it's pretty good. I'll say that much. I don't think it's the most brilliant game in the world. It's not having me crying tears of joy, but it's nice to play a game with a sense of a beginning, middle, and end. A game with a sense of pacing. A game that does have its open, explorable areas. We're in one of them now. We're here with the World Serpent, which is one of my favourite things from Norse mythology. We'll talk about that in a bit. But anyway, it's just nice to play a game that feels like a game. More than a service, you know, that whole live service thing. And I think this game has made me believe more in the idea of console exclusives, simply because this is the sort of effort we get from them. You know, publishers actually daring to tell stories and have some sense of a linear flow to that story. And then that's just something we don't see a lot of now. So it's been a joy to play from that regard. I will say that the combat system, using the shoulder buttons and the trigger and everything for attacks, similar to Hellblade, I mean, that's the biggest thing you can compare this to, is Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. By the way, spoilers for, like, 2 bosses. This is a sort of boss, sort of. And there's a main boss towards the end of the video, so if you don't want spoilers, you shouldn't be watching this, really. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I kind of wish this had the combat system was closer to Senua's Hellblade in terms of flow, because that felt a little bit more fluid, but it wasn't a better built game. It was clunkier from the way it was built, from a technical standpoint. So if it had, if Senua's Sacrifice had this production value, it would have been amazing. Obviously, the budget on this is obscene, and that's why it's we only see them as console exclusives, because they're designed more to get people buying the consoles, make the consoles more attractive, so they can afford to, not make a massive profit, not even make their money back, generally. Theoretically, obviously they do want to sell loads, but it's not make or break if they don't. The combat here is still good, I think. It's still satisfying, and it's great to throw the axe and call it back. It makes me wonder why Activision, although I think Activision might nick it at some point if they ever want to do a Thor game, because it has that feeling of calling back a hammer, and it feels really badass in any situation, which is always nice. You know, you want that from a God of War game, even one in which Kratos is your chill dad. He's very chill compared to how he was in all the other games, so you can tell he's grown as a person, because he doesn't automatically murder someone if they mouth off to him. So, you know, I mean, that's how you tell he loves his boy, because he lets Boy, I'm assuming that's the character's name, he lets Boy talk to him in some ways where I'm like, he'd have kicked you into a Hydra's gob if you'd have said that, if anyone else had said it. But anyway, the combat has your countering, it has your special attacks, you do special runic attacks, you equip those to your axe. You throw the axe, of course, and you can use that in a variety of ways. Obviously, you can just lob them at enemies, but they can be used to trip enemies up. Hitting different body parts can do different things. It's used in a lot of puzzles, and that's pretty cool. Combat is, even though it's very comparable to, as I say, Hellblade, and it's more of a standard third-person action game, it still has a good deal of God of War flavour. These characters are dark elves that we're fighting here, and it's just such a great design for them. They make me think of, like, Sectors, or that CGI cartoon that I never remember the name of, that was about insects that were in some sort of war, I think. I don't know, it was like 20 years ago when I saw it. But anyway, the enemies are varied, and the boss battles are especially well done. The camera is interesting, because sometimes its penchant for zooming in and wobbling about like someone's holding it can knock you sick and make you feel a bit headachy, but other times it's used really well. The way it flows in and out of a boss fight seamlessly, bringing us to different areas throughout the fight, so that you feel like you're having some long, epic, full-scale encounter, not just in a designated boss area, but across a whole landscape. And I love how the camera is close enough to Kratos that Boy, he's called Atreus or something, but his name's Boy, he's often off screen, so when you want to climb a wall or get into a boat or do anything that requires Boy to be there, he'll suddenly be there. They'll whip him right back to your location. So you're not sitting there waiting for an AI to dawdle across to you, which can often just kill the atmosphere of the experience. And Boy himself is useful in combat. He'll help Kratos out by distracting enemies, and you can command him to fire his bow and arrow, and they're really useful at certain points in the game. And of course they're useful in puzzles as well. There are certain puzzles that will require Boy to fire certain types of arrows at certain types of things. And there's a smattering of two-character co-op sequences, like lifting Atreus up to kick a chain down for Kratos to climb up or something, but it's nothing major, and it's nothing that's too slow or... Which is something God of War's good at doing overall, not just in this game, but as a series. That's something that's carried on consistently and is in full force here, that sense of speed of just getting right into the action. It doesn't faff about, even though it gives you as a player plenty of opportunity to faff about. There are some strikingly large areas that will have little hidden locations and their own side quests and rewards and stuff like that. It is well worth exploring, and again, it doesn't feel like busy work, even though it more or less is, because so much attention and detail is put into even the hidden areas that not a lot of players may even find, and they have their own nicely designed maps and encounters and puzzles and everything everywhere you go, even if you're doing similar things and you're fighting the same enemies in the same areas, and you're doing very similar puzzles, like, you know, find these 3 seals to open a chest. It's all still intelligently designed, and thought's been put into every single hindrance that's in Kratos' way. Nothing feels like it's just recycled, copy-pasted BS bollocks. The story's nice. I like how it starts small and personal and stays that way for a long time, even as you can tell the stakes around your chill dad Kratos and Boy. That would be a great name for the game overall. They missed a trick calling it God of War. No one cares about God of War. This is some terrible gameplay from me. Sorry about that. I'm not all that great at video games, am I? We all know this. You're not here for that. You're here to hear me say things like AAA in a funny voice, because I'm just a big round clown. Sorry. I need to stop putting myself off when I'm being a professional games critic. So let's get back to our professional games criticism, shall we? What was I oh, the story, right. I'm a sucker for Norse mythology, so it's great to see Kratos, having dispensed with Zeus and his mates, he's now over here to fuck up everything in Midgard and Niflheim and all of those places. This is the king of the Dark Elves. Again, don't expect me to put up the best fight, although I do beat him. I don't know why I'm proud of that. I beat a regular boss in a video game. Well done me. Anyway, this fight's got a nice example of the combat overall. It's just a nice look at just how involving it can be, and quick. It's a very quick game, even though the controls make Kratos feel a bit too stodgy, because like I say, it doesn't quite have the flow from the player control end. And part of that might just be that Kratos has a lot more to do. Senua's Sacrifice was a lot more focused, whereas this has Boy to worry about and his commands and the various magical attacks and axe-throwing shenanigans that Kratos can get up to, and a skill tree, of course, and a leveling system that seems to have been taken from Destiny, which threw me for a loop for a moment. It took me a moment to work out what was going on, and then I was like, hold on. I'm equipping things and raising a power level like Destiny? I could be wrong, but that seems to be my read on it so far, playing the game, which I have played for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I think that's the biggest testament I could give for this game, and it's quality. That's the word, that's the watchword for this, quality. And I'm realistic enough to, again, state that this isn't something every AAA publisher can do. They can't put out something this gorgeous looking, this expansive, with this many hours in it, telling this straightforward story. As much as I love those games, I understand that not all of them can do them on this scale. That doesn't mean they shouldn't do them on any scale whatsoever, and that every game they attribute a budget for should be some Destiny-alike. I'll use Destiny as the example just because I brought it up earlier. And I know right now some people are angrily typing The Witcher 3 in the YouTube comments, and I'm not ignoring that. I say not every publisher, not every developer can do something on this scale if it's a third-party publisher, but I ain't saying none of them can, especially ones posting record-high profits that may benefit from having some other games to fall back on if the service bubble bursts. But anyway, blah blah lecture, God of War is really fucking good. And I really can't say better than that. It is brilliant. It's well put together, a lot of fun to play, involving, engrossing, and all the other things that I said. It's just nice to play a game like this again. Do you remember when games were like this? That's good.